Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. Oh, excuse me. There's something in my tea that I didn't Okay, just I poured myself a cup of tea. I came to sit at my computer so I could start streaming, and so I started the stream, and then I looked down at my tea, and there was just this dead bug inside. So just to bear with me one quick moment while I go get something get a tea that's not bug infested. Anyway, how are we all doing today? Oh, what excellent news! Boy, am I happy for you. Gee Willikers, yes, exactly. How old are you? Ow, ow. Ignore that. That's all good. Ow. Anyway. Do I have my tea? No, not yet, but that's okay. We'll just start. Yeah, so we're good. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are we all doing? Yeah, excellent, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, it is. It is life. What more can we say about that, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not how that works. Okay, first of all. Um. Anyway, okay. All of that aside. Now we are going to actually do this. Whereas last Sunday we had just barely talked about this in any way, shape, or form. Today we are actually going to go into the details of the history of this world, right? So let's call this. I'm going to start actually in the Bronze Age. So for those of you who don't know, no, no, come on, work, work with me here. It doesn't work. That's not how it's supposed to go, right? Remember. Yes, we talked about it being a disc world and about hydropower generation of the water that comes off the disc world. That's not the whole point of this. We're talking about the rise and fall of civilizations, of military civilizations, etc., etc. Right? So let's at least try a little bit. You know what? That's probably true. What they do is underneath the world. Yes, there's probably a siphon that looks for deuterium in the water, obviously, and filters that deuterium out for clean fusion energy. That's definitely how that works. Yes. Okay, can we move past this now and actually talk about the civilization? Okay, okay, good. The end. Now, um, a few considerations actually before we start, or not before we start. A few considerations for this world because it's actually kind of important. Consideration. Okay. I think it's important. So let's just have that here. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Blah 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 blah. Oops. Well, just let me get it started so we can talk about it. Bronze Age considerations. Okay. Let's see. Let's turn that into 100. Perfect. That's good. And then we're gonna Here, it's gonna be 50 font. So this is actually kind of significant. One, religion, right? Oh, that tab spacing is completely screwy. I don't want Arial. Give me Courier. I need a nice fixed width font. Maybe we'll just use. I don't want to use Calibri. Calibri is disgusting. Courier. Courier it is. Okay. One religion. Well, the beauty about Courier really is that it is fixed width, right? So I can actually space things out properly. Considerations. Religion. So the religion on a world, like, first of all, we have to consider this, right? Because the world is flat, and because the edge of the world is so inherently visible, that makes religion a completely different, or rather, I should say, the evolution of religion in such a society should and will be completely different, right? Because they can actually see the end of the world, right? Like, so let's consider this. Like, there are people going to be that are going to evolve, societies that are going to evolve here, and they are simply going to take their ships along the coastline and find that there are never-ending waterfalls, right? And they're going to get to the edge of the world here and look beyond and see that it just falls straight down. So that means that people of this world are going to have a much more defined, let's call it defined, concept of the end, due to the visible end of their world, right? Remember what happens in our world. In our world, I'm not talking about, no, we're not talking about conspiracies. We're talking about sort of the original concepts that the Europeans had, because obviously the world revolves around Europeans, right? No, but sort of Western civilization revolves around the descendants of both Greece and Rome, and there are reasons for that. There are very good reasons for that. And so the descendants of Greece and Rome thought that the world would be flat until it was proven to be different, right? Until it was proven differently. But before then, the world was considered flat, and they would, like, they would sail off into the ocean and try to find the end of the world, but they could never find it. But if they did, you can bet that would have different consequences, right? Different consequences, especially for societies that have already developed. In our case, our society, let me write this down. Society develops with the concept of the end of the world, right? And this is simply because humans are, and we are using humans for this. This is just humans seeded on a new planet, right? So humans are by design, by evolution, expansionist. All animals are, right? Like, you always seek more niche for you to grow into, because that is how we survive. That is how Darwinism, that's how competition amongst species works. And so you can bet that, this is a nice early area, and as the humans evolve, like, before they really settle in their nomadic stages, in nomadic human stages, you can bet that they would live over around this area, right? And we're going to assume that the world is sort of, the seasons of the world of all of these places are pretty similar, right? Like the sun comes up on in the east and goes down in the west. But there is no hemispherical differences that we would see on Earth, and so therefore most of this world would be the same season. Of course, yeah, yeah, exactly. The world will simply have sort of the same seasons over and over again. It'll be winter. It'll get into winter. It'll get into summer at about the same pace, and there will be no temperature differences except from altitudes, right? So again, in those cases, oh, actually, we should put that in here. Constraints. Let's unlock the constraints. Um, as seasons are constant over the air surface, no north south seasonal oppositions. Right? So, on Earth, if it's summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter in the southern hemisphere, etc., etc., etc. Right? So that doesn't happen on this planet, which means that everything is nice and regular, and that's just for ease of storytelling purposes, really. Yes, yes. Um, right. So, and this is, let me just write, due to the expansionist nature of humanity during its expansionist nomadic days, and therefore most humans will have fundamental knowledge about the end of the world, right? And that's just the essentially the corners along this world where water falls into nothingness. Give me one quick minute. I will be right back. Oof. Okay. Well, where were we? Right. So religion on the surface is going to be different than religion in on Earth, right? Simply because of how the surface of the planet works. Well, think of it this way, right? Until it is confirmed, things will only ever remain a theory, and so therefore, theory is not convincing, ish. um, but if you can actually physically walk your feet over to the end of the world, I think that is far more convincing, right? And that certainly puts a hard stop to the ability of people to question this, because you can physically walk your own feet over to the end of the world, look down, and see that there's nothing below us, right? Like if you were just some douchebag standing right here, and you're looking down into the depth, and you see nothing but darkness. People try to lower themselves down, but on ropes. That's the word. That's the word I'm laboriously trying to get to. People try to lower themselves down on ropes, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going, and they never see anything but the edge of the world. And I think that is kind of scary, right? Yeah. So that's kind of the point. How would it look like from the edge of the world? I would assume that it would look like the sky. So Actually, let's go back to our constraints just so I can. It was for projection requirements. Sphere of gas surrounding the planetary plane. So what that means is that there is still an atmosphere surrounding our planet, our slab of Earth, and so if no matter in which direction you look, you will always see like you would look up into the sky, right? So if it's clear out and you look up into the sky now, you will see that it's blue and that it turns slightly whiter as you get to the edges, as you get farther away, right? And like if you look perpendicular from the surface up right now, it is the darkest when you look up, and it becomes lighter as you look towards the horizons. And the reason for that is that there's simply more air standing between you and the edge of space, and that therefore that actually scatters light harder, and so therefore it's whiter. Whereas if you look up and you have the minimum amount of air between you and nothingness and the vacuum of space, and so there's less scattering, and so you see the blueness of the air more. Does that make sense? I'm not going to go into Rayleigh scattering and all of that. There's simply no point. You can just fundamentally you can think of it as the sky being blue, the air being blue, and so therefore it gives off a blue hue. But the farther away you are from space, that blue gets diluted by things that simply sit in the atmosphere, right? Like dust, oxygen, ozone. All of these things will literally everything will absorb light and re-emit it, etc., etc., and that's why. Yeah, exactly. That's because if you look tangential to the surface, so if you don't look straight up but you look 90 degrees from that in any direction, you are looking at essentially the farthest or the longest possible stretch of air between yourself and the vacuum of space, and so therefore that means the light travels much longer, right, to get to you, and it travels in a much more, let's call it a much more a circuitous route. We get to the map already. Yes. Let's get to the map real quick. I just wanted to finish up Bronze Age considerations. We have one which is religion, and the second is what did I want to say? Oh yes, cradle of civilization. Should I have made a grid for this? Maybe I should have made a grid. Yeah, we should have made a grid for this. Okay. I'll make a grid for this before next time, but let's just civilization. Let's assume that the cradle of civilization is. Let's take a vote on it. I have 3 spots in mind. This is 1. This is 2. And this is 3. Okay? Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you. How long do we have? 2 minutes while I go pour some tea and figure out which one you guys want to be the cradle of civilization. It will change the way we do things, yes. Well, the point is, like the cradle of civilization determines essentially where the first major superpower, quote unquote superpower of the Bronze Age will be, right? And that is sort of that area is going to be one of the more developed areas in the world. Of course, it's also going to be one of the more fought over areas. So it sort of informs the entirety of the rest of our of this story. I'm just getting tea. Relax. That is actually a good question. So the question was how many ow 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 how many countries or civilizations will we have at the start? I'm thinking probably we'll introduce them as time goes on, essentially. So we'll do essentially what amounts to be a timeline based growth of this world. Yeah. Oops. So our cradle of civilization, you have chosen to be number 1, which is up here. Okay, excellent. I don't mind that. I like that. That is all right. That is all right. So, how will we do this? I think we will do it the old squirrels method, where we have do I have my swatches underneath? Yes, excellent. We'll use the squirrels colors. Why not? That 2, 4, 5, 2. Okay. So this would be rate of civilization. That's oh wow. Okay, excuse me. That didn't translate properly. This okay. Here. That's the color. 5, 2. We are also going to do this color, but we're going to do it at 20%. I think that looks about right. Okay, that is interesting as well. It turns out we can't do it like that. Just give me 1 second. Do this. Hard corners. And then what's the width? What if we set that to 10? Actually, that looks is 10 alright? Actually, that's really big for an ancient country. I don't think it'll be that big. So 10 is also not alright. So let's do 5. 1, 2, like that. Okay. So cradle of civilization, we'll have one country sort of here. Oops. Oh, that's not how it works. Right, they'll go between the lakes, and then it'll be something like this. Excuse me. Hello. No. Why can't I? What? Wait, where did I draw? Oh. I don't appreciate that. All right. Okay, so you have no idea what you're messing with, my boy. Simply no idea. I should be able to join these two up, but I don't know how. Break curve, close curve, smooth curve, join curves. Why can't I join these two curves? Do I have to on this side as well? No. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I'm not that bad. Okay. 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 First of all, I'm not that bad. There we go. Now we can join the curves. Join curves. Excellent. Okay. So now this is a single curve. It's going to have that at 20%. There we go. And this is going to be called, because I am extra professional at this, and obviously yes, yes, exactly. It's good to stick to the basics, and so we're, oh, excuse me, can't do keyboards properly, and we're going to choose a font like I have no idea what this is, but I'm gonna choose it anyway. Right, so this is going to be our first ancient empire. These areas will have humanity in them, but in terms of organized states and organized... Oh, what happened here? Ooh. Why does this look like a declaration of like... Oh my god. Okay, let's... Excuse me. There we go. 0. Why are you not getting to 0? 100%. There we go. This goes away. Excellent. And then we'll draw a block down here. This will be nothing. This will be everything, and it'll be white. Sit down here. Okay, there we go. That's restored. Good. So this is going to be our start, and this is already quite a big empire by the standards of the Bronze Age, right? Because if we think about it, the whole portion of this from here to here is x20. Oh, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Someone just suggested that we do 1 kilometer per pixel, which is actually fantastic. A fantastic idea. I really like that. So that's what we're going to do. This is, or maybe 2 kilometers per pixel. 1.5. 1.5? 1.5. So this will be 30. And let's just measure top down. That's a fantastic idea. I really like that. That makes my life a lot easier. Height. Oh, okay. That doesn't make my life quite. Okay. Calculator. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times 1, 5. 18,516. 18,516. Distances 1.5 km per pixel. Right. So that's... I appreciate that that's going to be slightly, like, we can't simply read it off, but 1.5 times easy, right? So for example, this has a width of 1.18, or yeah, 1.18, and so that means it is essentially 1.7 thousand kilometers across, and that's already huge, right? That's pretty big. Yeah, think of it this way, right? Like, a lot of these ancient competitive states were based in this sort of very, very self-contained areas. And so for example, I'll give you an example. One of the best that I think of is actually the period of in English it sounds really weird, but it is essentially spring autumn, and then the era of the Warring States, which were then unified by the first emperor of China. This was what, like 400 AD, if 400 BC, that time. Yeah, exactly. So well, 400 BC. Yeah. Yeah, about that time. And so, but that's already like where we're in the late Iron Age, right? So like, or like we're already in the classical age, I should say. Um, what did I want to say? Oh yes, so that era really was a self-contained conflict within that landmass that is now like southeastern modern, not southeastern, but like middle eastern, northwestern China, right? And that's simply because jungles were too hard to traverse, mountains were too hard to traverse, and all of that, and that makes a lot of sense, right? So civilizations there grew up in that area, isolated, in areas that were easy to move around it, and so that's what we're going to see here, right? Like this area is easy for everyone to move around it, easy-ish. It's got mountains and hills, but it's not too challenging. And then what we'll see is as the Bronze Age sort of expands, these countries, as they fight their wars, as they lose, as they win, they'll sort of expand in all of these directions because that is where it's easy to go, right? So for example, if a if our country A loses, you could imagine that a lot of their refugees would move in the northwesterly direction since there's simply nothing there to stop them, right? And we're going to place a few more empires before we talk about this, but essentially, yeah, it's going to be the original. The first bits will be constrained to this end, and then we'll see. As we get into the Iron Age, we'll have more states here, more states here, and so like at first they'll fight sort of localized conflicts, but as we get into classical blah blah, the, as technology evolves, the wars become more global. I think that's pretty fair to say, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's do the next one. That is not my fault. uh, no, I refuse to accept that that's my fault. If you're bored, you're simply bored. It has nothing to do with me. Oh, excuse me, I didn't need that. We'll have this at 20% opacity. Oops. This at full. And we're going to create one of the bigger rivals. And they sit sort of in this nice basin. They have their own navy sort of up there. And that's all good. Going together. Smooth curve. No, that's not what I want. Hold on. Just adjusting the map just a little bit. We're gonna plop a city-state here, actually. Interesting. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's going to be a city-state that covers these two islands because they're hard to fight into, and so they sort of dominate trade in this area. Oh, it's an inland sea. Maybe. Yeah, they'll still dominate trade. Yeah, it's perfectly reasonable actually. Because if you think about it, that's the entire reason why the Phoenicians were so powerful in antiquity, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Well, let's have that 20%. Excellent. We'll give you B. We'll give you a different. I feel like we might need to stick to a very, not generic, but a very fundamental font. Because I'm starting to see sort of influences in font style, and that's going to impart a certain amount of um personality on the countries that I don't really want. Does that kind of make sense? Right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because fonts come with their own feelings, right? Like we've known that forever, that fonts were actually very much have their own, have very much have stories of their own to tell. And so if we let the fonts tell those stories, there are times and places where we can do that, but I don't want to do that here in particular, if that makes sense. Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean that I think it makes sense. Okay, so this is Group B. So for today, I think we're just going to have our first 5 kingdoms set up, and then we'll be done. Because we all have other things to do. Oh no, that's not. That's not. What are you doing? I didn't select anything. I don't want to send there. Okay. So the third will simply be in this direction. And yes, I realize I haven't changed the color yet. That'll happen. Just bear with me. And as you'll note, I wanted to give it a nice yellow. No. Add this to palette. Excellent. This will be 20%. Oops. We'll switch over to that. Excuse me. Oh, excellent. And then we'll have country C. This artifact element. Excellent. So that'll be country C. No. None of that. Ugh. Yep. I thought I had changed all of this, but of course I haven't. Okay. There we go. So this will be country C. And then we'll have D here and then E up here. Why not this island, you mean? And that one. They'll come into play in the future, yes, but in the beginning it's simply just about how can you most use the natural resources to stay alive, right? And in this case, it is simply that it's easier to do so here because remember, cradle of civilization is here, right? And so you would expect people to like organize, like the agricultural revolution started here, which means that the countries that were able to feed more people simply had better resources, and that's the end of it. Yeah, exactly. So because the agricultural revolution happened in this area, that is just where things tend to be the most powerful, right? So, and then similarly we'll see this kind of thing. That. And then we'll give it what color should we give it? Yeah, that's not bad. Would that clash with the water? It might. It might. So maybe we should give it that. That, yes. Your eyes will be fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. See? This should be fine. If the colors end up being annoying, we can change them. Don't have to worry about that. Right? So don't worry about it. Relax. Oops. Yep. Group that. And we'll just have our final country up in the north here. And I think this is being a little bit generous, or actually overly generous for Iron Age societies. So we will talk about this actually before I completely commit to this kind of opening, because keeping in mind, right, like this is what is the width of this? This has a width of 2.4, which means that it's got what 3.6 thousand kilometers in width for Bronze Age country, and I don't think that's going to be reasonable actually. Yeah, like this was already pushing it on the size, and then we just kind of like went with it. Let me think about this. Simply because I kind of do want these to be bigger. Maybe we should start actually in the Iron Age, right? Like, I mean, it's not 100% like that we can justify it for an Iron Age society either, but it's easier to justify than for a Bronze Age society. Yeah, yeah. And like these aren't nation states in the same way that evolved in, you know, say like with Louis XIV, more distributed feudal societies that have existed, sort of, you know, in very much a distributed, decentralized, like paying lip service and like power being brokered by all sorts of locals and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, exactly. So I'll have to think about it. I'll have to think about it, but I think what we'll end up doing is not going to be exactly this. Well, yes, you're right. The whole point is that I don't want it to detract from the story that I want to tell, right? And if it does, then we need to do something about it to make sure that it doesn't detract from the story that I want to tell. Because there is a story here. It's a story about civilizations, about humanity. And if we don't, if we tell that story in a weird way, I think it'll be more likely for me to simply get lynched. Oh yeah, I'm fairly certain I will be. Yes. Excuse me. Why is there no fill? Oh, it's at 20%. So this will be fill at 20%. This will be white. Remember, we had talked about this. I had talked about how we were going to have a city-state a la the Phoenicians, or not Phoenicians. What am I saying? Where the Venetians. Yeah, and it's simply going to be labeled 1 as opposed to a character, because it's not. It is, while it is a political player, it is not a. It is not a. It doesn't have the manpower or the resources to really stand on its own unless it is able to. Yes, exactly. To unless it pays someone else to do so. Doesn't mean it's not rich. They do a lot of trade, right? Um, Presumably there's a lot of trade that goes from D down to E. There we go. Down to D, C and D, and as we will see next time, E and A and B are pretty. There's some amount of animosity going on there, and so the city state at 1 is simply able to take advantage of that to have. Oh, we should build a trading port here. Like that. Yeah, so there's essentially a trading port here there that also belongs to 1. What is this? Why is this not white? There we go. So essentially, like there's a trading port here, and how wide is this? This is 300 kilometers, or not 300 kilometers, 250 kilometers. That is quite big still, right? Like that is 250 kilometers is bigger than Belgium. I need to completely rethink this Belgium thought. Yeah, because Belgium is only 376 square kilometers. No, my bad. No. 30,000 square kilometers. And what is this? This is 175 times 200. That's already bigger, I think. I can't do math in my head. 175 times 200. 35,000. Yeah. So this is yeah, this is basically the size of Belgium. This is also the size of Belgium, and this is the size of Little Belgium. So we should that doesn't. We'll have a port here. And then we'll delete this. And this is the only place where the city-state is. There we go. Excellent. Much better. That can be deleted. No, it cannot be deleted. Like this. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yes, I know I'm fiddling, and I do have to go. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. So I will have to fiddle with this some more. We'll probably do it on Tuesday when nobody's paying for sponsorships. But this is something that I really do want to consider, and it is okay to me. It's fun. I'm a huge nerd. Whatever. It is my time. If you guys really desperately want me to not do this, you can, of course, sponsor something else for Tuesday. But we're doing this on Tuesday. Cool? Cool. Okay. Now, having said all of that, thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox. Please don't do Chrome. And what else do I say? I did not waste your time, so I'm not going to say that. No, this is a study. Okay. Before we stop, because this is actually kind of important. This is a study not on just history, right? This is a study on much more than history. This is a study on the human condition, right? Like why humanity does what humanity does. It's fascinating to me why humanity does what it does, because a lot of the reasonings that they come up with is complete, like, just like none of it makes any sense, and there must be good reason for why it doesn't make any sense. And so this, I would say, is my way of trying to understand why humanity sometimes doesn't make any sense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes, okay, alright, yes, get those jokes out of the way. I'm happy you're happy, you know, like we should put some more ports in. Well, so yes, I realize I'm still fiddling, but there's good reason for that because we're putting in ports. Because if you realize this, right, like if this city state is simply serving to keep E alive, then obviously B and A are going to attack it sooner or later. So there's a very careful juggling of priorities for the leaders of city state 1 because it is necessary for them for their survival, right? So they have these ports all over this inland sea that they're using to not only project power, but also to yeah, I will put it over there. Not only to project power, but also to ensure that they profit, right? That they maintain sort of good relationships with all of their great power neighbors, because obviously as an individual city state, it is very, very important to do that. So these are you can think of them as trading ports, like self-contained cities, right? So that's why they sit on an isthmus like this, because then it makes it easy to defend. You can defend this with a couple hundred guys, like if they're dedicated and well paid enough. You can defend this with even less, right? Because it's an island. Same thing over here. I actually wonder how big this is. 70 by... Ooh, that's 150 kilometers. Ooh. Okay, so that's half. Okay, that's good. Small islands. Excellent. Okay, well, like Rhodes. Kind of, actually, yeah. Rhodes itself is actually really interesting, right? Because the last stand of the Templars, and the fact that they managed to keep it going for so long. Obviously, it was via financing from the big European monarchies, and a lot of like rich sons went to work there, and therefore they brought their money and their connections with them, and that's great. Well, no judgment on the Templars or any of that. It is a valid business model, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Well, it is, right? It is a valid business model, I think. I can't think of a reason why they wouldn't, right? Like if the Templars were in such a situation, or rather, if I were the Grand Master of a cult in such a situation, not a cult, of an organization in such a situation, that's what I would do, right? Invite all of the rich sons from across the richest monarchies, and like you help them essentially solve a problem, right? Because succession is an issue in these, at least for the Knights, not for the Knights Templar, but for that particular society, because the monarchies need. If you had more than one viable heir, it would potentially create conflicts, right? And so if you send unwanted sons off to the military, it's better to send it to a prestigious military, because you're acting, you're burnishing your family name by having your sons sort of join the Templars, as opposed to like be the captain of a mercenary company, right? And so yeah, it's that kind of idea. Yeah, okay. Oh. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, whatever, download Firefox, don't do Chrome, and I shall see you guys tomorrow. We can play Crusader Kings 3. Yes, I do have that, but yeah, maybe we'll see in the future. Cool. Bye.